If you've paid attention to the news over the last few days, you've probably heard about the situation in New York as it has been covered in smoke. Canada is on course for its worst ever fire season in recorded history, and the warm and dry conditions are expected to stretch through summer. So far, it's estimated almost 9 million acres have burned. More than 120,000 people have been forced from their homes. And at the time of recording this video, there are currently 413 active wildfires, including 249 deemed out of control. The dark clouds of smoke are really a foreboding of what is still to come as fire season ramps up further in Canada, and it hasn't even started yet on the western part of the United States. There are things you might have realized you should have done before the choking smoke descended, or you may realize now that there are things that you need to do to prepare for the future. And before we jump into this video, let me say this. One thing that millions will come to understand from this event is that there's really no escaping the dramatic changes that we're experiencing that will only worsen over the next several years. And look, this is not a one-off event. Records are already being shattered and are clearly an indicator of what's still to come. We'll be covering other events shortly on this channel, so you might want to consider subscribing to stay updated. Now in this video, we're going to take a look at the current state of these fires, their implications for our future, what you can expect in the coming months, and most importantly, what you can do now while there's still time. Where there's smoke. 90 million people in the United States are currently impacted by unhealthy air. Air quality alerts have been issued in 20 states from Missouri to Massachusetts. Wildfire smoke from the Canadian fires we reported a few weeks back continues to blot out skies in much of the United States and has prompted multiple health and air quality alerts. Air quality alerts have been issued in 20 states from Kansas to Massachusetts as Canada struggles to contain the wildfires. Now, these fires arrived earlier than expected, and Canada is still only early in its fire season. Choking, toxic smoke has stretched from Texas and Alabama to Massachusetts and the States, across Iceland and Greenland, and is predicted to spill into Norway, some 3,000 miles away before these fires are extinguished. Now, the smoke that does make it to Norway and Europe will not have the same toxic levels of particulate matter, but it's significant nonetheless. The AQI, or Air Quality Index, is 3 or 4 times higher in some areas than the cutoff of a healthy range. New York City had the worst air pollution of any major city in the world at one point Tuesday night. And at the time of recording this video, the air quality in New York is currently ranked the same as that as Dhaka, Bangladesh, considered the most polluted city in the world, where air pollution is estimated to shave 7 years off people's life expectancy. Air quality has closed airports, it's canceled schools, it's ended outdoor dining, it's canceled outdoor sporting events, and has caused an abrupt halt to all outside activities and work. And by the time we release this video, East Coasters are going to get a little relief as the wind patterns shift slightly, but that's all going to be bad news for cities like Toronto, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Detroit. A forming storm in the Midwest over the weekend could potentially shift wind patterns again and send the smoke back to the East Coast. Wildfire smoke is a complex mixture of gases, particles, and water vapor containing multiple pollutants that can enter deep into the lungs and absorb into the bloodstream. The chemical properties of wildfire smoke have been proven to cause more inflammation and toxic buildup in the lungs than typical smoke. A strong correlation exists between the smoke from wildfires and a high occurrence of heart attacks and strokes. It is causing a surge in emergency room visits related to asthma and various respiratory ailments. Individuals exposed to wildfire smoke commonly experience eye irritation, itchy skin, rashes, and other complications. There's fire. This is only a preview of what's still to come. Canada's fire season typically stretches from May to September, so it's still very early in the fire season. In the Northwest United States, wildfire season is expected to peak in August and September, blanketing even more regions in choking toxic smoke. Fires this decade have been particularly bad and earlier in the season than usual because they follow a long period of drought and a mild winter. A remarkably mild and dry January this year disrupted the regular winter season and the natural rhythms of nature. While it has taken meteorologists some time to decode exactly what caused such a mild January, the most immediate observable clue is a jet stream, the fast-flowing air current that acts as a boundary between cold northern air from the Arctic and the warm southern air from the Gulf of Mexico has run further north than in previous winters, and the northern polar jet stream has weakened in strength in recent years. The reasons, they're debatable, but the fact is undeniable. This has caused the wind band to sway off course and for weather patterns to shift more frequently between extremes, even as some patterns linger over areas for more extended periods. Now, worldwide, extreme weather has resulted in greater frequency and intensity of fires. The world is really witnessing warmer and drier conditions in historically colder and wetter areas. In addition to drought-stricken regions, we're now seeing fires in wetlands in the Arctic Circle with greater frequency and intensity. Destructive fires, they've raged across Australia in 2019 and 2020, burning 16 million acres. I think had COVID not occurred at the beginning of 2020, that would have probably been the story for that year. Now, in 2014, 2017, 18, and 19, and 2023, fires in Canada have burned over 26 million acres and counting. In 2019, Siberian wildfires, of all places, burned over 7 million acres. Fires to this extent really have an unforeseeable long-term impact on the environment. And look, we can only guess and estimate some of their far-reaching effects. Fires of this nature, they drive animals out of their habitats and they shrink their overall habitat. This really puts wild animals in the zoonotic diseases that they carry closer to humans, which can have untold consequences. Now, additionally, such enormous wildfires substantially drag on an already lagging economy. The costs associated with fighting the fire, restoring the land from businesses forced to shut down and people forced to remain indoors really stalls any momentum of the economy. Airline and road transportation is snarled. Fossil fuel, mining, and timber industries in fire areas, they must suspend their operation. Crops in impacted areas suffer from stunted growth. Tourism and recreation, they all come to an abrupt halt. Government aid and resources have to be redirected to these afflicted regions. Now, even if you never see or smell the smoke, you feel the impact of wildfires on the price of everything. It has a similar effect as inflation. Now, unfortunately, the problems for many will last long after the smoke is cleared. Temperature records worldwide are being shattered daily from China to Siberia, Africa to Europe. And the predicted El Nino shift will bring the relief of wet conditions to some, but as we're already learning, it will also bring more extreme weather patterns and oscillations. Warmer waters in the Pacific Ocean will shift the path of the Pacific jet stream, a global west to east air current, southward. And as a result, northern regions of the United States and Canada will experience drier and warmer conditions compared to their averages. Weather patterns that we would typically see stretched out over decades are really compressed into much smaller time cycles today. Rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, and changing weather patterns contribute to these events' increased frequency and severity. When the fires are finally extinguished and the smoke clears, and torched and barren landscape devoid of wildlife and vegetation will be susceptible to flooding, mudslides, and erosion. What you should do now. If you live downwind of these fires, the best thing you can do now is to pay attention to the air quality index. I'll put links to airnow.gov for the United States and a link to the Canada's Air Quality Health Index in the description section below. Now, don't think that all is fine just because it's slightly hazy. You need to take this as seriously as you do an approaching storm and stay informed. If you can see or smell smoke, know that you're being exposed. Experts say wearing a face mask can help if you're in a smoke zone. The type of mask is important. N95 masks, I'm sure we all remember those from several years ago. These type of masks, they provide excellent protection against smoke particles, which are the most dangerous elements of smoke. Now, you still will smell the smoke through the mask, but it blocks the particles when fitted well to your face. A respirator is a good option in areas with extensive smoke, as extreme as that may seem to many. Here on the West Coast, where wildfires are pretty common, having proper masks and respirators in your prepping gear is pretty much essential. And I'll do a breakout video here shortly on the channel, in which I'll detail the different type of masks and filters on the market and what you should look for when you go about shopping for these. Now, wearing an N95 mask or even a damp bandana over your face and mouth, along with goggles of some kind, should be considered when outdoors in any type of smoke zone. The best thing you can do is to stay indoors, keep windows closed, and avoid outdoor activities. You can also set your central air conditioner, if you have one, to recycle air inside your home. Now, if you anticipate smoke this summer in your area like I will, it might not be a bad idea to visit your local hardware store and pick up filters specifically designed to filter out smoke particles and smog. Now, these are typically the more expensive option, but since this time of the year presents these specific problems, I'll personally be swapping mine out here shortly to deal with this issue during the fire season, which will begin here in the next month or so. There are dedicated air filters that you can put in your home to filter specific rooms as well. In many ways, these are cycles of weather history that will proceed along with or without us. Once the fires are finally extinguished and the smoke inhalation hazards have passed, a massive hole in that part of the ecosystem will take years to restore. Just as the land has to adapt to less stable and consistent weather, we have to adapt to extreme temperature highs and lows more prolonged droughts, stronger periods of intense precipitation, and now smoke from wildfires. The ecosystems of these areas, they've been profoundly altered, and we humans are far from invulnerable. Even as the toxic smoke of these wildfires drives us into the seclusion indoors for our own health and safety, I would encourage you to view them as a community building opportunity. Reach out and check on your neighbors, especially the elderly or those more vulnerable in your community. If you have the resources, I would encourage you to share with them an N95 mask and air purifier, or make some suggestions to them based on what you've learned here in this video. Realize that if they are forced to stay indoors to protect their health, they may also be running low on basics of food. This is also why we stress on this channel the necessity of building a year's food supply. Please take a look at our video on 30 days of preps, especially if you're just waking up to the need to prepare. It will provide you with a good, well-rounded basis for thriving through these disasters, which fortunately will occur more frequently in the years to come. I'll link to those in the comment section and description section below. Start off a conversation about the work of firefighters, volunteers, and organizations providing support to affected individuals and communities. You need to discuss the importance of individual and community preparedness and cooperation in dealing with the ongoing and future challenges far beyond just wildfires. I would encourage you to see this as an opportunity to build community resilience. Check in again with your neighbors and friends and lend a help if they need it. This is really your opportunity to build relationships with individuals around you to help create a stronger, more compassionate community. One that you would be proud to live in before, during, or after disaster. Look, these minor disasters that will eventually, at least for a while, subside and pass, again, are opportunities for you to build with other like-minded individuals. I get that question all the time on the channel. How can I build with others in my area if there's a disaster? This is a great opportunity because this will impact entire communities. And these are the type of relationships you want to build now. If you have any feedback, any thoughts, or any questions, feel free to post that below. And as always, stay safe out there.